I'll tell the story of the Lorenz machine, which was a substitution cipher that could be attached to teleprinters used by German High Command during World War II. But yes, I'm telling this story because the Lorenz cipher, or the tuna code as it was known. Anyways, this Lorenz machine is a great story that has threads that go to all kinds of places, past and present in computing, and it's an amazing story, and it's not told often enough. So here we go. First, a little bit about teleprinters, but they really are elegant to the highest of levels. And although I think they existed since the end of the 19th century in some primitive types of flavors, they certainly were used in the 1920s and commercialized in the 1930s with quite some success. And so yes, Alice has a teleprinter in Paris. Bob has a teleprinter in Berlin. Alice types hello. Hello is encoded and punched onto some tape, often using the 5-bit, or you didn't have bits, but the 5 baud, or I don't know what you call it, but this Bodo encoding on tape, which would then be serialized and sent over the wire by phone line, or relevant to the story, even though this is no Morse, you could say if you were wanting to send something from Berlin to Stockholm and you didn't have some type of phone line, you could send it and intercept it, or interestingly by way of ham radio, which would draw things up and down and up and down and squiggle stuff away. And this is what Bletchley Park intercepted, I think in the early 1940s, or well, maybe not that early in the war, but this is what they call tuna traffic, and immediately suspected from Cipher School or somewhere that it was. Anyways, I'm doing things out of order. Teleprinters. So yes, Alice can type hello, it would be serialized, sent over the wire, and without Bob actually having to be there, just with Bob, if Bob's teleprinter was on in Berlin, there would be some ingenious electromagnetic way that this would be deserialized, and what was sent over the wire and would be punched back into tape on Bob's end and printed out by way of this typewriter. I think it's a butterfly, but I don't know what it's called. It might be a butterfly wheel. I'm no typewriter expert. And yes, these teleprinters have an imposing air to them, or at least to me, because they have this compressed air cylinder, which for sure did the re-perforation on the end of the recipient of a message, but I'm not sure if they also did the perforation of the tape on the end of the sender, because actually maybe there was some ability to leverage key presses. I'm not sure, but anyways, this is so cool, so interesting, at least for me. I find it great that in the 1920s and 30s you had this terminal device, the original terminal device, that could basically instant message. Not for nothing, I don't know too much about it, but you can see some current teleprinter hobbyists interacting with the Linux kernel by way of teleprinter. It's not for nothing that much later, and I think on much more sophisticated teleprinters, that Unix was developed. But enough with the ear beating. Yes, why did I put this? Yes, this is just Bodo perforated tape. I get some flavors of Continental ITA2 Bodo. I don't know, but 2 to the power of 5 is 32, and they're 26 letters. So yes, well, in fact, I think same perforations could be double encoded because 26 leaves some space, if you will, for control characters, line breaks, other things that I'm not sure of right now. The problem with sending things, the problem that was and the problem that still is with sending things unencrypted over the wire is that they're unencrypted. Yes, Vernon, I don't know if he was at AT&T Labs or if he was another one of the contributors to Bell Labs whose contributions to the world cannot be overstated. Anyways, in America in 1919, the young and powerful Vernon had the idea of this. Vernon, so I took his patent and I put it sideways because it's a bit easier to, at least for me, to see this way, but basically bitwise exclusive ORing your input stream with some random key stream, and then using the additive property of the bitwise exclusive OR for deciphering. So let's say your plain text is this. Off the dome, I actually don't know what it is, and not for nothing, and interestingly, the most frequent characters in continental languages like T and A are actually the ones that were like 1 0 0 0, because because not to have too much wear on the actual perforation head, which is makes sense, but I also find very elegant. And so yes, we have our plain text, our key, and let's bitwise exclusive OR the two. Oh, that's terrible. Symbol 0 0 0 1 0 1 0 1 1 0 0 0 1 0 1. Here's our ciphertext, which is nothing like the plain text, and which this Vernon method of exclusive ORing, I suppose, could be infinitely secure as long as the stream is infinitely long, but we're not in a world of frictionless planes or infinite rolls of key tape, whatever you want to call it. So yes, that was the first problem. Oh yes, I forgot to demonstrate. So now your ciphertext, if you exclusive OR it again, 0 0 with the key, 0 0 0 1 0 1 1 1 0 0 0 0 1 0 1. Let's do a color switcheroo. Ta-da! Your plain text has been symmetrically decrypted back to your plain text, which I find exhilarating every time. But yes, I mentioned one problem is key generation. How do you have the sender and the recipient of the same key? Okay, great, but why not? But more, as you can see in Vernon's patent, the idea was to have 2 rolls of tape being exclusive ORed, and this, I think this synchronization of tape perfectly poses its problems. However, I think by the 20s and 30s, cryptographic circles were well aware that people would find ways to cleverly do an electromechanical exclusive OR type of cipher, and the Lorenz machine was not the only one of its kind. Yes, it was used by the Germans, and it was intercepted because, well, Lorenz traffic was being broadcast and intercepted by what the British called Y stations. Now, I was looking into what Y stations are, and I expected them to be like spectacular satellite type of installations, but I think in reality you had networks of enthusiasts and volunteers just using ham radios and listening for German traffic. In any case, this the signature of the traffic, which would be recorded with one of those scribbly things and then have to be read into Bodo and typed by, I think you had some ladies at Bletchley Park doing that into the perforated tape to actually get your captured encryption. The Lorenz traffic was called tunny traffic, or I don't know, English people think this means tuna. You also had sturgeon traffic coming from, you had such a seaman company making such an exclusive or attachment for teleprinters, but this is about Lorenz, and this is how Lorenz did a very stylish mechanical exclusive or after every key press, so you won't have a bunch of rolls of paper leading up to your encrypted tape. You had 10 wheels doing the actual encryption, so you had 5 Chi wheels, first step of encryption. I've put the number of teeth each wheel had, or the number of pins they're sometimes called, and then you had the Psi wheels, named by Bill Tutt for who knows what reasons, but the press of every key would correspond to a certain number of pins. As you can see, this is a close-up of a wheel, could be any of the wheels, but pins could be in position or not, which generates such a factorial number of 41 times 31 times 29 of possible settings, because there's so many ways you could set each wheel. But basically the 5 Chi wheels would be exclusive ORed with the input. Then this would be exclusive ORed with the Psi wheels, called the Psi string because they didn't move after every click. After every click, the Chi wheels would turn, but the Psi wheels here in blue, now this position is just to show that a pin can be in position or not, but the Psi wheels, their movement was controlled by the Mu wheels, which kind of made everything a bit spicy. And basically so you can see, basically Mu1 would turn with each press or ka-chunk of an input, but Mu2 would only turn if Mu1 had a pin. Okay, great. And then all the Psi wheels would only turn if and only with the exclusive OR of the exclusive OR of Mu1 and Mu2 was 1. So Mu1 could be 1, Mu2 could, you see what I'm saying. And yes, and that's on the encryption side. It's as we saw, it's such a symmetric cipher, so the receiving teleprinter, calibrated the same way, would just output the plain text. Yes, so this may be a bit too much, but it's if you're modeling your own Lorenz machine, it's interesting to consider that the number of pins on the wheels are prime or not. 26 isn't prime. At the very least, they're co-prime to each other, which also mind boggles me each time, because ignore this part, just look here. You see that if you increment each wheel by 1 clockwise and note the cycle before returning to a same combination, you notice that 2 and 3 generate 1A, 2B, 1C, 2A, 1B, 2C, which is 6 possibilities, which is also 2 times 3. So you say, okay, great, if you have a wheel with 2 and 4, then you have 8 possible combinations. I think I'm using the right word. You have 8 possible combinations. No, because like in this way of prime factorization, well, they have factors in common. So yes. In the second case, you only, the cycle length is much, let's say the entropy is smaller because the time before a pattern would repeat is much smaller, making it easier to break, because yes, here we have 4, not 8 possibilities, and this is actually how the number of pins on the Lorenz machine were, on the wheels of the Lorenz machine were decided on. Unlike Enigma, there was no, thank God maybe for the Allies, because it did come in clutch. It's by intercepting rather Lorenz traffic that the Allies knew that Hitler had taken the Calais bait prior to D-Day. But yes, unlike Enigma, there was no switching wheels or rotors around. Okay, great. And another, I suppose it's hard to mention any German wartime encryption without mentioning Enigma, but when Enigma is mentioned, and sorry for this tangent, but it is said that the weakness was that Enigma could not encrypt inputs back to themselves. Lorenz certainly could, because if you take this property of the, albeit rare, but if you take this, imagine the scenario where all the pins chi and psi are the same. Chi 0, 0, 0 and psi 0, 0, 0, and our input is 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. The 5 chi wheels were called the chi, I guess this little prime thingy means strain, because their movement was irregular. Great, let me change colors. So what is the exclusive order of these two? It's 1, 0, 1, 0, 0. Now we exclusive OR the chi and psi streams, and we obtain such a 1, 0, 1. Ta-da. Boom. Tremendous. We have a character that got encoded to itself. In fact, the Allies maybe would not have broken this had they not intercepted 2 messages sent with the same key. And I'll link some videos about the Tiltman break and Colossus. But actually, yes, maybe let's, well, I think this is clear enough. I don't really need to write out that input would be exclusive ORed with chi would be exclusive ORed with Cipher. I think this diagram speaks more to this electromechanical exclusive OR when it was happening. Colossus is unfortunately for Mr. Flowers, it is very rarely mentioned in the annals of history as one of the first vacuum tube computers. Maybe often it is ENIAC that gets this, that gets these laurels, which is unfortunate because although it was not punch card programmable, it certainly had such, like, let's say, von Neumann memory with this tape of input spinning around very fast, and it did look for patterns based on pins and switches that could be set to look for these repetitions in Lorenz traffic. And this is amazing to the highest of levels.